The weeks surrounding Christmas are filled by many people finding time to enjoy music and drama. Although there are concert opportunities throughout the year, there appears to be a proliferation and variety of musical performances in many towns and cities as November draws to a close, and then we make our way through December into January. It's not just churches that bring the sound of singing and organ with carol concerts, services, and organ recitals. In the deep dark of the winter, there are concerts held in halls and venues, drawing people away from their homes. Pantomimes bringing life, colour, and foolishness. There'll be Christmas oratorios and ballets. The music of the winter season offers something for everyone. Dunfermline offers an example of the breadth of music on offer in the lead up to Christmas. In the last week in November, if you were a parent, you may well have been in the Alhambra watching the Christmas Gala concert, as children sang carols and Christmas songs and raised money for the gala in June. If you like organ music, you could have been here in the Abbey on the first Sunday in Advent and enjoyed La Nativité du Seigneur. If pantomime is your thing, you have the choice of two throughout December. If you travelled further afield, last weekend you could have been in Glasgow, either watching Texas, or a couple of days later you could have watched Madonna. And if you travelled to Edinburgh, if you managed to catch the train and find a seat, or even managed to squish in, you could have been watching the ballet because it's the season of the Nutcracker. If you like Christmas carols, then you will have had a wealth of Christian communities offering opportunities to sing carols. I'm, of course, well known for my meanness about the tradition of singing carols and seem to frustrate some people who want to sing Christmas carols from the beginning of December. I have a multitude of reasons for that. So to name but three, it's not Christmas until the baby hits the hay. We try to teach children the value and importance of anticipation and waiting, but then want to hurry to the end ourselves. And the words of carols are poignant and full of meaning, and yet somehow many of them have tunes that make them sound quirky and twee. Or that's the case if you've sung most of them 7 times before we even get to Christmas. But to return to the breadth and expansion of music that happens in the winter of each year, perhaps it's to brighten up the darkness of the season. Just as the lights, decoration, and sparkle bring colour for eyes to feast upon, perhaps music brings a feast for ears and imaginations to take us in new and different directions and invite us to review our understanding of the world. Pantomime traditions might come from a medieval celebration of the Feast of Fools, but music as part of the Christmas story is deeply embedded within the biblical tradition. Our carols and choirs remind us of the angelic chorus that inspired the shepherds to make a journey from their hillside to a stable in Bethlehem. But the angels' songs are not the only songs within the story of Jesus' birth. Within the Gospel of Luke, one of the 2 Gospels that tells the story of the Nativity, and the one from which we read this evening, there are 5 moments of song in the opening 2 chapters. We heard this evening that the angels sing and the shepherds sing. But prior to these songs, 2 other songs are sung in preparation for the Christ child, by Mary and by Zechariah. And before the 2nd chapter closes, there's a 5th song sung by a devout old man called Simeon. The writer of the Gospel uses an older tradition of prophecy, poetry, encouragement, lament, and praise found within the Older Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures. While the story of the gospel may be new to the followers who encounter the good news of God in the life of Jesus Christ, by using some of the patterns of the older scriptures, he connects ancient themes of God, the eternity of God, into the events of the present and the future. The words of God spoken or sung by ancient prophets or worshipping communities are revived and recast into the incarnation of God. For centuries, the Lord had spoken of living in their midst, and in a moment, in a stable, the Lord clothes himself in humanity, and the songs of the past are confirmed and revised by the physicality of human life. Each of the songs within the gospel offers something different in its understanding of the living of faith with the presence of God. Mary's song, sung as her relative Elizabeth recognizes that Mary is carrying the child of God, speaks of her delight of having been chosen and offers a taster of what we will meet in her child. This child to come is one who will bring the powerful down and raise up the poor and disadvantaged. Zechariah's song marks his release from silence as his own child is born. His child is to be the one who will lay the path for the Messiah to take his place in the world. The song praises God for the possibility of the change in fortunes that the physical presence of God might bring to the community and the world. He sings of mercy, redemption, and forgiveness, and he delights that his child will be the prophet that will speak to a waiting world of what is about to happen. The angels put in their appearance after the child is born, proclaiming good news to shepherd. They praise God while promising peace to all people. The shepherds sing, having met the baby. They, the unloved and outcast of their community, are given a place of honor and discover that they're valued. They sing of their excitement of all they have seen. The final song belongs to that old man called Simeon, who's waited a long time for the prophecies within the scriptures to be fulfilled. Urged to go to the temple, he encounters the Holy Family, and in response, he sings of a promise fulfilled and his readiness to move on. So within these 5 songs, we hear the blessing of beginning and the hopes that a new start will bring, the realization of a task that needs to be done, the telling of the task so that others might get involved, the sharing of how to be involved, and finally, the recognition that a task is completed and the impetus to move to a new stage in life. The 5 songs encapsulate how we should live as the people of God, but I would suggest they offer advice for life. We're to recognize the blessing of new challenges and the hopes that they will instill within us. Then recognize what it is that needs to be done and get others involved. Encourage them to speak to others. And then when the task we're to do is completed, or a particular stage of our lives reaches an end point, we should sense the urge to move on, thankful for what we have been part of. The singing of songs has been an important part of change. Hebrew slaves sang songs of freedom in Egypt. Slaves of the Western world sang songs of freedom. Suffragettes sang songs of empowerment. Communities at war sang songs of peace. Outside places of nuclear weaponry, songs of peace are still sung. In the 1980s, songs were sung to encourage people to recognize that the world was starving. Singing can unite people together and lead to significant changes in our own lives and potentially across the world. Charities like the one that we in Dunfermline Abbey support, like Playlists for Life, have recognised the importance of music in our lives by drawing our attention to how our lives are shaped and framed by the songs we sing, the music we listen to, and the significant memories that music triggers. Perhaps that's why the Advent and Christmas period is so marked with music. The music we sing at this time brings back those childhood memories, the precious emotions stirred by Christmas carol and candlelight. The hope of the singing of these songs, though, and in the hearing of the gospel, is that they do more than recollection. Instead, in adult life, it's not the carrying of the tune that should inspire our lives, but the reciting of the words and the impetus of the story that they tell that should be carried into all of life. For a world where the outcast and the downtrodden is still met in the refugee, the homeless, the hungry, the bereaved, the sick, the imprisoned, and in some places still, women and children, then the songs we sing for the Christ child should speak to the deepest depths of our hearts, imaginations, and emotions, and stir us to action. Tonight we may sing the songs of Mary, expectant of a child in our midst, and the hope that the promise of God with us may hold. We may even sing like Zechariah of the child in our midst and the potential path we can see being laid out ahead. But when we leave this place, we are to allow the child to grow within our lives and hurry to tell others of the possibility of the task that the hope of God inspires, so that they too may share the news and get involved, before finally reaching that point where we can see the task is done and we must move on. When the angel voices this night lift back into heaven, what songs will we sing that allow the presence of God to filter into all of life? Will you sing a song for the refugee? Will you sing a song for peace? Will you sing a song for the homeless? Will you sing a song for Bethlehem? If our songs and our lives are truly inspired by star and wonder, then they should aim for the seemingly impossible, believing that God's love welcomes everyone. And if we have made it to the stable door, then it's our task to help others find their way. Amen.